Most people are saying behavioral. Okay, you can pass the slide. And yeah, as you said, this is a behavioral sign. It's one of the examples that Paula gave. So yeah, it's a behavior and not too healthy. So yeah. Next one, disconnection from activities they or you used to enjoy. Okay, we see some different answers here. Yes, I think everyone has a different opinion. Let's see what this is. It's a behavioral sign. It's true that some of these signs can, well, emotions, behavior, and social life really overlap. So it's yeah, it's common to kind of mix them up, but that's all right, and it's important to see the signs and then notice the pattern on different areas or aspects of its life. So you can do the next one. Feeling pressure to keep up with everything. What do we think about this one? Okay, most people are saying social. Okay, so let's see what this is. Someone is crying. Some hearts. Okay, it's a social sign. It's similar and related to the FOMO, the fear of missing out, and it's yeah, although it can be a bit confusing because it's feeling pressure, but it's you are trying to keep up with everyone and with everything and to feel included in the social space that it's online connection. Okay, so increase anxiety of this motivation for no apparent reason or out of nowhere. What do we think this sign can be? Some hearts. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what this is. Yeah. As all of you said, it's an emotional sign. And yeah, it's important to notice to realize that it's not something that appears for no reason. There's always a reason behind. We can see comparing themselves to others online. What do we think? Laughing. Yeah, a social sign. It's as I said, as with the fear of missing out and the need to be up to date with everything, it's something social that happens in social spaces, such as online. Having difficulty focusing. What do we think? This is our last time. Okay, I see thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Yes, as most of you, as all of you said, this is a behavioral sign. So you did pretty well, I think. And now if you go to the next slide, we have a bit of a reflection. And if you can scan, this is another Mentimeter. It's I think if I'm not wrong, you can also click on the link that we sent before and you will be seeing the question.
Yeah. So it's the same Mentimeter, the same link.
Mhm. I see most answers are leaning on both. You have both seen it in young people and gone through them yourself. I personally also have seen them and gone through them. So it's really important to notice when it's not only an isolated sign, it's not only, oh, he's feeling tired, I'm feeling tired, but it's in many different aspects. So that's when we notice the pattern, and that's when we notice, okay, this is not healthy, or this person needs help, or I need to do something about it. So, so yeah, if we get some more answers, or if not, we can, I think, maybe move on. Paul?
Sure. I'm sure mo for most of them, and I think it's for most of us, we have either experienced ourselves and we have
Mm,
also kind of like seen that in the people we work with. So for sure, I believe for most of them will be both. So thank you, Carmen, for that interesting activity. I think it's always fun to try to understand if we have actually understand well the concept. So lovely.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
nah, yeah, and then let's now keep adding more and more concepts to our knowledge and get, and trying to understand, keeping understanding what is digital well-being and how to work with it. And in this next model, we'll focus in what is the psychology and behind the screen use, what is behind our behaviors. For this, as I said at the beginning, we will have a psychologist on the second bit of the session who will be quite open to answer your question and complement in a much better way the contents I'm going to share with you right now. So just keep that in mind. But can you come back for a minute, Anna, please? Thank you very much. We'll go to that in a minute. I know she's excited to know what's there, but before that, just to kind of like introduce the topic and introduce what we're gonna see here, let me ask you again a question. You need to reply, but even if it's in your mind, that's also fine. But have you ever opened your phone and don't realize that you weren't actually looking for anything? I already shared this at the beginning and my previous module, but I believe that for most of you has been the case, for young people has been the case, and for myself has been the case. And I want to repeat again this concept. Young people often don't go online simply because they want to feel entertained. Very often something happened before that. It can be a feeling, it can be a situation, it can be a need. And today in this model, we'll explore what happens underneath that behavior because usually that screen is not the problem. It is really what is behind that, what is responding to. And now, yes, Anna, please let's go to the next slide. Thank you very much. Exactly. So digital behavior that we've been seeing or been analyzing on the previous slides actually is often servicing a purpose. Screens can provide comfort, it can be provide connection, it can be distraction, simulation, belonging, different feelings depending on one case to another. But definitely it is feeling a need for us. Let me set this situation for you. You open TikTok. But what are you actually looking while you're opening TikTok? You don't even know, yes. And that's because mostly what you're looking for, and mainly our young people are looking for, is distraction, rest, escape, company, emotional relief. And this is quite important to understand. As I said, most of our young people doesn't have or doesn't understand yet this concept and doesn't have the tools to cope with this just yet. The behavior is quite visible, but then the need underneath usually isn't it. So behavior makes more sense if we understand the need, as I said, that is behind it, and it helps us work with it. Um, Anna, could you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So our brains are designed to respond to the rewards, and that's what I'm gonna explain here is the reward cycle. To answer question that we keep asking ourselves, why it is so easy to keep scrolling and keep scrolling. And as I said, this is why, because our brains are designed to respond to rewards. A notification, message, new video, or light creates anticipation, and it's not necessarily pleasure. It creates expectation, anticipation, as I said. What this creates is a cycle, and this is what is called the reward cycle. Someone, something triggers our attention. As I said, it can be a notification, it can be a message, it can be a new video, whatever it is. Then the brain creates that anticipation and expectation. It expects a relief or reward. Then, which move us to do something, an action. I said, open the video or send a message or whatever it is. So an action happens, a behavior happens. Then a short-term reward arises, starting with, in this case, it means that increase of dopamine. And here I want to make quite clear that dopamine doesn't mean necessarily happiness. I know that most of us have heard that the dopamine is the hormone of happiness, but not necessarily. What actually dopamine is that, or what is actually telling our brain is, this might be important, pay attention. And that's why our brain remembers that this action that I'm doing is important. I need to pay attention to it. I need to come back to it. And how it is how the reward cycle works, because by that we just create an automatic behavior. And this reward cycle works for all of us. This is how our brain works for all of us, but definitely young people are more sensible to it. Can you, Anna, please go to the next slide? So, okay, we understand how our brain works. Lovely. But and we understand, of course, yes, there is a need that is meeting, lovely. Uh, but we also need to understand that there are different type of needs, and normally those needs that our screen use are meeting are not just practical needs. There are two big groups of influence, those internal and those external. Internal can be boredom, anxiety, stress, loneliness, emotional avoidance, while external can be likes, comparison, pressure to reply, fear of missing out. And let me ask you this, what do you think keeps young people more connected longer, technology or social expectations? So the internal or the external? Well, I believe that for the answer is quite straightforward, and most likely are the social expectations. So it's not the phone per se, but it's my friends all or on the phone. So that's my social space. So for them, where digital spaces are, there are their social spaces. What it means is that then for them, disconnecting is not always easy, because for them, and for all of us, but mostly for them, connection is really, really important. Being left behind can be for them even the death, in terms of like how strong is the feeling. And as you work it, we are not meant to diagnose, we are not psychologists, but we can become a bit more curious and trying to understand, okay, why are you always on your phone? What are you feeling before? What are we hoping to get? What did you feel afterwards? And by that, move the conversation from judgment to understanding to support, and by that, being able to drive them to a more mindful and balanced screen use. So how to create healthier habits without creating guilt or resistance? Well, this is where boundaries come in, and as we will explore in the next module. But for now, and as Anna has done, let's move to the Mentimeter, as I think it's a great moment to ask you a couple of questions to kind of collect what are your main doubts or concerns around this, and we can later on ask our expert late in the second bit of the session this question that you have, so he can take the time to answer them. So let's start with this. 3 situations where young people are struggling, or have you seen that they struggle to set healthy screen time boundaries? So when you are doing your activities, what are the 3 main things or situations where it is harder for you to put that boundary, to set that limit and being able to work with them. Well, later on, as I said, we'll be asking Ruben what are a couple of tips and tricks that he has that we can apply on those kind of settings to make easier for us to cope with these difficulties. So take your time. I know that maybe you're thinking, and maybe you have most of one situation you're trying to pick. Maybe right now in this moment there is no situation that is just popping into your mind. That's also fine. If they later on come into your mind, you can always drop it into the chat. Interesting. So I'm understanding that then it is easier to work with them when they're focused on an activity, but then while they are having some free time, they're mainly on their screens. Maybe understanding that. Am I understanding that right? Confirm, correct me if I'm wrong on the chat, please. So when you are bored or anxious, so when they're feeling more like bored or anxious, they are mainly doing getting to your phone, to their phones, and it's hard for you then to work with them. Okay. During training sessions. Oh, lovely. So while you're doing their activities with them, okay. Phone use during our camps. Yeah, I do know that for some of you, this is a huge thing. Back in the day, we didn't have phones, so we just went to the camp and enjoy it. But definitely for youth workers now in working in camp settings, it is harder. Like, so we take the phones off, or so we'll reduce the time that they can use the phone, how we do it. We want them to focus on the activities, but at the same time, it's important for them. Yeah, interesting topic. Isolation when they don't want to engage physically. Really, really interesting this. Scrolling me for bed when feeling that there is not an internet activity. Okay, so when they kind of maybe don't like the activity that they are proposing, they rather to go to their phone and don't cope, don't do the activity, maybe. Okay, at home evening time when they feel bored to do something, not there by choice. Okay, again, that alternative and option and will okay during online learning when chatting with friends while playing games or using social media apps. So I'm understanding that maybe it is harder to do kind of like online learning because they kind of get distracted and focus on these kind of like other things. um Okay, not resting. Okay, when other friends are online, we already started this. No, that that it's hard for them as their social world is there, looking for some information but getting distracted easily with some more videos than their algorithm shows. Definitely. Okay, sorry, anything online. Yeah, they don't know how it works and how to set the boundaries. Definitely for sure. And there are no positive activities for them to take part in. Okay, really interesting. And they're too attached in social interaction for sure. Feeling of losing a bunch of flames. Wow, that's oddly specific, lovely. During our count, when they are not allowed to use their phones. Love that example because it's quite hands-on. That's the actual practice. What is happening in your realities? Airplanes. Oh yeah, definitely don't have the possibility to be connected. So okay, really interesting. Keep, as I said, keep dropping your comments on the chat if you don't have the time right now, or it's something later on um, come back to your mind. Uh, drop it there so we can like chat with Ruben afterwards. We have a couple more questions, so let's things that help you notice when their screen time is becoming too much. So what are those things that you think are for you helping you notice? Or if you have any question related to like, am I doing this right? Is there any other way I can do it? You can also drop it here. As I said, we will be saving these questions to later on spice the conversation with Ruben. Wow. So them not being able to hear someone calling their name. That's quite impressive to read. Okay. Take a minute. I understand that this may not come to your mind just directly, so feel free to take a minute, think about them. Headache. Yeah. Turn everything into known. I may say I'm a bit guilty. Sometimes I turn everything into memes, but not for sure. I do know that they take it into the extreme. Irritability when they have to turn off or be away from their devices. Yeah, I this is something quite interesting. One of our youth workers from our YMCA network once um, shared this with me, and phones are for them the only kind of like property, the only thing that they actually own. So taking them from them is like taking their whole life, which was a really interesting um, thing to hear. So secretly using their phones. Okay, you're trying to do really real life tasks. Physical stiffness, tiredness, difficulty concentrating on schoolwork or daily tasks. That's for sure the most clear sign to spot on. Pure eating or not eating. Wow, never heard about that. Really interesting too. For sure, that's something that we can bring with Ruben and see if he can give us a couple of tips on check on how to cope with that. You shouldn't be doing other things or don't have enough time to do other activities or duty. Feeling anxious when they are away from their phone, for sure, setting off insulation of increase. Yeah, no, so keep updating your thoughts. Yeah, for sure, extreme reactions are also in as clear sign. Lovely. Let us move on to keep going, but again, feel free to keep adding those ideas into the chat, and we'll bring them back while our session for sure needed to address it. And let us ask you a last question. Name one chain that could reduce screen overuse. So what do you think will be that one chain that could reduce screen overuse? Maybe you're not sure about it. Maybe you just want to double check with the psychologist. That's also fine. Okay, self-awareness. Yeah. So understanding ourselves, understanding our emotions, how to work with them, for sure. Set a daily screen time limit and take regular breaks from devices, limiting the time, offline hobbies, for sure having offline hobbies. So letting understand other spaces where they can interact and socialize, that there are other spaces and settings where they can get the same thing that they get online, for sure. Track your time with alarms. So this is really interesting. The limit and the screen time, like setting a limit and bound. I'm gonna leave that, but no, definitely setting limits and putting like um yeah, boundaries, something that always pops into our minds and is quite connected to our next model. Um, so, so sympathy to them, encourage more physical connection. Really interesting things that you're bringing to the table, and I'm really glad to read them because they're quite connected with the topics, as I said. So again, keep adding either here in the Mentimeter or on the chat. I'm sure that Lucia will leave it open for you to keep answering. But as I said, that um, connection with limits and boundaries that you have shared on the Mentimeter, it is on the next model. So let's kind of explore it together. So thank you. So this model is digital boundaries and screen time. So far we have explored what digital well-being means, why screens feel so difficult to put down, and what emotions and needs might drive digital behavior. Lovely. Okay, but awareness, which is important, of course, as you have raised, doesn't automatically create a change. So most young people, and even for us, we just decide, I'm going to spend 3 hours scrolling tonight, or I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to spend 2 hours. It's go far beyond that. What usually happen is what usually happen is that you kind of start setting tiny actions that will drive these to longer changes. Um, And today, that's what we're gonna explore together, how to interrupt this automatic cycle. Thank you, Anna. This was just right on time. Let's start talking about boundaries and limits and what is the difference between them and what is important that we switch the wording from limits from that sounds a bit more rigid to boundaries, which is a bit more flexible and is more um, matching our goal and our objective. So when we normally hear boundaries, we hear or we imagine rules, and is the opposite. We're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to, when we talk about digital boundaries, what we actually meant is these self-chosen agreements about when, where, and how we want technology fits in our lives, or how we want it to fit in our lives. So the goal here is not less technology, as we're in the digital era and we definitely need it, but the goal is balance, as we have initially said in the Mentimeter, that balance, moderation, and so. Um, so let's some examples to illustrate this idea. Instead of saying I'm not gonna use the phone anymore during the day, or I'm gonna stop using the phone and I'm gonna um just use it for 1 hour per day, we can do other kind of activities, and let's switch it for maybe I'm not gonna use the phone while I'm eating. And maybe this is too much yet. Okay, fine. Well, I'm not gonna use the phone during breakfast time. And maybe this already too much for you. That's also fine. Let's start with I'm not gonna use the phone during today breakfast. And that's fine. We can start like that. And even if you just accomplish 5 minutes and not that I spend the whole breakfast time without using the phone, that's also completely fine. No problem. Other kind of actions that you can or another kind of digital boundaries that you can do is maybe charging the phone outside of your bedroom at night, or instead of like saying I'm not gonna use social media anymore, or I'm gonna delete Instagram or so, let's start with tinier actions like, okay, I'm gonna use social media, but I decide to use it after we are done with this activity. Or we are gonna do that commitment between you and I, where okay, we're gonna focus this moment in this bit of activity, then we can do a short break. You can check your phone and then we can go back and do the activity, and then you can take your phone back. So it's about that, um, given the option for them to set their boundaries and making little actions. No need to be big changes from day to night, because boundaries work better when they feel realistic for you and for them. Can we move to lovely? Thank you. So, okay, lovely, but it is really hard to stop, no? And maybe you already heard, or already you know this, and why still it is hard. Well, most of us already know what we should do, or or at least we imagine what we should do. That's really the issue, not knowing what to do, or how to do it. What happened is that, and it's important we understand this, is that when a notification arrives, we feel something and then we react automatically. And why this is happening? Well, this is happening because there are several things happening together at the same time. Perceptual design on one side, emotional triggers on the other side, habit loops too, and expectation all together. And so very often this is not a conscious decision, but an automatic response. There is no pause between the action, between the input or the trigger and the actual action. And that pause is exactly where mindfulness come in. So in this next slide, I'm going to introduce you the concept of mindfulness, a key tool that can help you move from, okay, so I really know what to do, but why I'm not getting the results I want? Um, it is, as I said, because we are not able to do that pause. And how we can get to do that pause? Well, with this technique of mindfulness, that we'll have on the next slide. So mindfulness might sound like an abstract concept for some of you, and maybe for other of you, you have already heard about it, as I saw it also on the Mentimeter at the beginning. What it is? Well, it's just a tool, as I said, a technique that we can use, and it's composed of different actions. So it's just not just one action, or there is not only one way to do mindfulness, but it is more like the the self-awareness, or the paying attention to what is happening right now without judging yourself. Mindfulness can help us ask ourselves questions like, what am I feeling? Why am I opening my phone? Or is this actually what I need right now? To help us move, as I said, from that trigger impulse behavior to trigger feeling, pause, choice, behavior. And let me hear me out. Like the behavior can be the same at the beginning. Maybe you want to pick the phone. Maybe you want to scroll. That's lovely. That's fine. But the conscious decision is what is making the difference between the first chain and the second chain. Okay, mindfulness, lovely. Can be at the pause button, lovely. But it sounds still a bit access to me. Okay, let me pull you an example. Um, the three breath pause, how it works. So, um, when that notification pops into my phone, instead of like grabbing directly the phone, I take a minute, take a one slow breath, calm, and then you try to notice what you are feeling. And then you ask yourself, what I'm hoping this device will give me. The question can be very different to adapt it to you. That's fine. But the aim, the goal is the same. Trying to understand what you're actually trying to get while picking your phone and reading it. And again, your thought can be, oh, no, I want to actually check it and see if my mom has text me. Fine, lovely. There is nothing wrong. As I already want, I shared at the beginning, technology is not our enemy, but another tool that we can use or not, depending of how intentional is that use. And again, mindful is what is helping us to with that, to make that intentional use. Um, Carmen is going to introduce another activity too, so I stop for a bit
Yeah.
and stop chatting. I know that I've been talking for a long time. But yeah, so this activity will just help us trying to understand a bit better how we can cope with everything that is happening all the time and making that pause. Because normally there are multiple things that are happening at the same time. And it is harder to as I said, to make that intentional choices. And that's where this activity comes in. So again, I'm gonna shut up. The first yours, Carmen. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. So yeah, for this part, we are going to see what digital boundaries map looks like. Someone in the Mentimeter before said that self-awareness is one way that we can change those digital habits, and that's right on the point. Anna, if you can pass to the next. So a digital boundaries map help us break down our day and see what digital habits uh, we have during the day. I put here some common examples, like using your phone in the morning. Your alarm is set on your phone. You tend to turn off the alarm, but then you pick up your phone, and and yeah, then you use it right as you wake up. Um, we're gonna focus on just one part of the day. So let's focus on the morning since I used that example. Um, and yeah, if you can pass the slide to the next one. So those are some examples, but feel free to write in the chat or even write down on some paper what some other examples can be, whether um, you do them personally or you have seen some of the young people that you work with, if you have seen those habits in them. Mm, yeah, so maybe people are thinking, or you don't have much clarity on what I mean, or oh yeah, so I'm gonna just go ahead and say some examples of what the digital habits that we do during the day. Check work and personal social media platforms. Yes, that's one. Thank you. Yeah, bringing the phone to the toilet. I think everyone has has done that or still does. And in bed at night before sleeping, and then you wonder why you can't sleep and why you wake up tired, and there's that. Yes, those are great examples. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, watching TV. Yeah, I usually also tend to watch a TV show while I'm having dinner or while I'm eating on the break from work, and then you suddenly you feel like you are using screens all day, and it's because you are randomly picking up my phone to check it. Yes. Yeah, those are some great examples, and this boundaries map um, helps you like see them and see those digital habits that you might not think of you normally. But when you see all of them, you realize, oh, okay, I am using my screen a lot. So then we connect this to the digital boundaries, and we think, okay, those are what my digital habits look like right now. And if you go to the next slide, please. Anna. What this map does is ask you the question, what do I want my digital habits to look like? So we have talked about no screens, like using the screen before going to bed. And it's like, okay, let's set a boundaries for the last half an hour before I go to sleep, I won't use my phone. So that's a digital boundary. It's well, as Paula said, it's um yeah, something you set yourself. Mm, yeah, I'm seeing some more examples. So so yeah, or no phone right after waking up. As Paula also said, you can put the set it charging for the night in a different outlet, so you don't have it right next to you, next to your bed. And and yeah, so now that we have seen some examples of digital habits, we can think of new examples of how could we add a boundary to try to limit that habit. As Paula said, it doesn't have to be deinstalling all social media. No, it can be something super small, something just for the day, just for anything. Yeah, turn off notifications so it doesn't. That that's a boundary and a great um yeah, a great option. Using focus mode, that's that's super helpful. Now, so for implementing this activity with the kids, you can introduce them to the time limit apps that you have in your phone. So if you spend more than, for example, more than an hour on Instagram, it will give pop up and it will tell you you have spent this much time on Instagram. You should maybe stop. Uh, mm. Yeah, I removed all the apps from my screen, so it's long-winded to search for something. Yeah, that's really helpful too, because as Paula said, it gives you the time to pause and think, what am I looking for? What am I feeling? And what do I really want to do? Or why did I want to open this app? Yes, as Vanessa said, thank you. It's trying 1 or 2 meals without the screens. It doesn't have to be uh, a lifelong boundary. Yes, or instead of using the phone going to sleep, you can put a book next to your bed, so you, instead of using your phone, you read something. Yeah. Yes, so these are great examples, and we don't have much time. If we had more time, we could like do a more in-depth. but I think this is great, and we invite you to either use this activity with the young people that you work with, or even with yourself, because as we have seen, we have many examples of habits that we do ourselves and that we want to change, and this helps you be aware of that and set an easy and doable action that contrasts that habit that you want to change, and really helps you get to that change and start that journey to a digital, healthy digital use and digital well-being. So yeah, these examples that you are saying in the chat, that they are so all great, and thank you so much for your participation. I hope that you found this useful, and I will give the
You'll be back to me.
the grant to, yeah, to Paula.
Lovely. Back to me because I haven't
I
spoke too
Yes.
much today. And, lovely. No, thank you so much for
It's
bringing this
okay.
activity. It's a clear
Thank you.
example, something that we can do with ourselves for sure, but also something that we can do with our young people. There's a real activity that we can even do with them. And with this activity that we're bringing into into today's webinar, we're aiming, of course, to consolidate the knowledge that we are learning today, but also to give you some example of how these activities could look like in reality. And here, let me, before getting into the concepts that we're gonna walk us through this model, let me come back to the initial something that I said at the beginning, sorry, which is talking about the Oasis project. So at the beginning, I said that I shared with you that within the Oasis project, we have been creating some educational materials. Those are actually two. We have created what we have called a training pack, and on the other hand, a youth-friendly kit. The training pack is focused on providing youth workers like you or different kind of stakeholders and that this information might be relevant for the knowledge that they need to know and the tools and tricks to how to understand digital well-being and how to work with young people. Um, Actually, this webinar is kind of like taking the materials and the knowledge from that training path that we have co-created with different experts, and we have kind of synthesized it and put it here into some like slides. But there on the actual training pack, you will find much more of and we'll go more in depth on these ideas and this content and this tool. These materials will be utilized so you can later on go and use them and explore them on your own, or maybe sharing with other peers if this might seem interesting for you. And then on the other hand, we have created this youth-friendly kit, which aims to be a practical guide or book for young people themselves to use it with different activities that they can sit down and do within them. And you can also even use them to guide them through them and help them, get them do it. I'm just saying this because this model is more focused on, okay, now that we understand, or hopefully you understand a couple of concepts around digital well-being, screen habits, boundaries, and how to set healthier screen boundaries, we want to move to what do we actually do with young people? Um, what are, what can we do as youth workers to put our bit into helping young people into this? What we will find here is just, as I said, a sneak peek of some activities and practical things that you can do. But there on those couple of materials, you will find much more if you are interested. This will be later on shared with you, and you can use their on your own. That being said, let me go back to that question that I just said. What do we actually do with young people? Um, Yes, we understand the behavior, but apart from that, what else? Well, let me tell you that we are not supposed to create miracles. We are not expect to fix digital habits, but just to be there supporting the change, supporting them in those steps, and helping them rethink the way they're doing things. Now that I've started this introduction, let me walk you on how we can, be trained to this role of being more like just be a companion, just being a guide, and don't being necessarily the controller. So I already shared this thought, but let me bring it back and explain it again, and maybe in a different way. So sometimes when us adults or youth workers talk about digital use, normally the conversation turns to be like, you're online too much. You put yes, you need to put the phone away. You are spending all the time there. You need to focus. And normally this, if you like kind of listen my tone, normally these are negative, or comments that come with a negative tone or a negative wording. Um, but again, let me remind you that young people experience the digital world in a different way. For them, digital spaces are spaces where they find connection, identity, creativity, belonging, and far beyond that. Don't put the pressure on yourself. You're not meant to control them. You're not meant like, no, you need to spend more 5 hours. Sorry, you just need to spend 10 minutes with the phone per day or whatever. You just need to guide them to help them understand there are other ways to use technology in a more mindful way. What this means? Well, we can change to be more like listening before advising, asking questions instead of assuming, supporting reflection instead of giving solutions, helping young people design their own boundaries. Um, and a couple of examples how we can do that is, like, for example, instead of asking why you are always online, let's say, why do you enjoy being online? Or what feels difficult or overwhelming? Here is that we are trying to build that trust. We understand you. We want here to help you. We are not meant to tell you what to do. We are not meant to change anything from what you're doing. We're just meant to be here as a supported guy. One of the strongest messages we'll find within this training pack is that to be part of their change, we need to give them ownership, and that's what we are exploring on this next slide. Um, Thank you. So most of you mainly already know this, but let me bring it back or remind you that young people engage more when they feel ownership of what they are doing. And in this is not any different. What this mean? Well, it can be choosing activities they are doing. I know that you bring that also in the Mentimeter, that alternative, that feeling that they're not forced to do things, helping them setting those goals, contributing with ideas instead of like imposing things, as I said. Let them sit down with you and brainstorm together. Also sharing experience. Yes, I also face this. I'm also all the time on the phone, or maybe I'm also facing this challenge when I'm uh, yeah, maybe I'm facing. I'm just thinking an example that someone bringing to the chat. Well, I want to read more when I go to bed, but instead I ended up in the phone, and then it's harder for me to fall asleep. And don't know how to, or for me, it's harder to stop this loop. So you can start out with them too, so they can understand. They can also see that you're facing or are feeling the same challenges, and you can start with them. Well, this and that are the action that I'm taking to try to avoid that. And also, sometimes I manage to get it done as I intention, and sometimes I don't, and that's completely fine. And that's also a message that we can share with them. And this is quite important to be there, as I said, supporting and helping them change, making this conscious change themselves, because change lasts longer when it feels self-directed, when it feels not imposed. I'm sure for you it's the same. Normally, when do you that change? When someone comes to you and tell you what you need to do, or when you think, okay, maybe I should, start drinking more water per day, um, instead of the doctor. Normally, you get to do it more when you think, like, no, I need more water. So, uh, this is exactly what applies to young people. And this is why it's important to have a couple of practical tools to understand how to start these conversations or how to drive these conversations. Um, Thank you, Anna. Um, on the training pack, on the training, oh, actually, sorry, Anna, you were right. It was on the previous one. Sorry about that. Well, it doesn't matter really, but no, sorry. That's what I mentioned at the beginning, that we have created these tools and the training pack and the educational, sorry, and the youth friendly kit, because on both you can find practical tools that you can use to, yeah, with this goal to don't eliminate screens, but help young people observe and experiment themselves. Example of what you can find here. Well, We have, of course, digital wellbeing map that you've seen in the activity before is one of those. We can also have the mood mapping. So help them, it's a interactive way to move to help them identify those feelings. So how do they feel before, during, and after screen use? Another activity is the habit loop. So understanding the trigger, the behavior, and the reward, and how that works for them. Another activity is what is called notification and app audit. So what supports me, what drains me. There's a longer list of activities that you will find there if you want to use them. So what I'm saying is that there, if you after this are still wondering, okay, well, how I can take this into practice, don't worry, we got you. We have there a bunch of activities on that, a couple of materials that you can later on explore on your own and take it home. Now, yes, please. Yeah, so this is just an example of what are uh, questions that you can use to start those conversations. Um, what do you enjoy online? What helps you disconnect? What do you wish others understood? That's a really important one. What you will you feel in more balance what balance will feel look for you? Um, Again, you as youth workers are not meant or need to have all the answers, but just to create the spaces where reflection becomes possible. Um, they Young people are not going to build the habits alone, and you're not meant to build those habits for them, but find a space where they can express themselves and you can guide them through that. um and on our next model we will explore that you are also not alone on this. There are also different actors in their communities that are also playing a key role for them, and working all together on this is what actually will help young people to build healthier digital habits. But as I said, I don't want to run too much. Let me pass again the ball to Carmen so she can do again a quick interactive activity so it doesn't get too boring on my side, and you can like see a bit more of what we meant with these practical tools and engaging activities you can find within the training pack and the youth-friendly kit.
Thank you, Paula. Don't worry, all your talking is great and it's so interesting. So for this one, we have prepared a short case of mm, a fictional but real life case scenario where after a session or a class or um, wherever your work is related to, one of your students um, or participants stayed because he wanted to talk. Let's say he's angry at his parents because they granted him with his phone last weekend. And they did this because he spends a daily average of 10 hours on his phone and he has had trouble sleeping, trouble focusing on school. His grades are getting lower. But not having his phone during the weekend just made his mood way worse and his attitude because he was disconnected from his friend and he couldn't know when or where they were hanging out. So he felt left out and not in the loop with his friends. Um, so yeah, and if you can um, go to the next slide, let's think when you heard or read this situation, what was your immediate like reaction? Did you feel judgmental, like he spends 10 hours a day, that's so much? Did you feel concerned or curious? Or yeah, feel free to write it in the chat or to just think about it. I see one comment saying curious. Yeah. Yes, curious and concerned. Hmm. Yes, I see some different answers. Judgmental, if I am honest. That's completely fine. It's normal to be a bit shocked with some of the habits and some of the situations uh, that we are put in or that we see in our work. And and yeah, that's completely normal. The important thing is to understand our role and how we react to them. Even if you feel it, can't just say uh, you can just say, "Wow, that's so much," and just them. Um, um, and yeah, so our role, as Paula said, is to guide them and help them, and not to judge them. We have to meet them where they are and understand them, and then we can start working on how to help them, which leads me to the next slide, which is the action plan. So what do we think we could do to help this boy? So as someone said, that someone already started thinking possible solutions on the way. So what I'm thinking of some of the tools and the strategies that we have talked about in the webinar. What just brainstorm some ideas of a possible digital plan, a possible activity you could do with him. How do we think we could help uh, this boy in this situation? The Mentimeter, as we said, is the same as before. I think the link got maybe lost in the chat. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Mhm. Yes, that's really important that they feel listened to, and yeah, and try to understand them and have them trust you and trust in them as well, of course. Listen to what he enjoys when being online and explore. Build trust as an initial step for a deeper conversation. hmm Yes. Yes, that's the a great way to focus on it, that there's maybe another problem in the background that causes his behavior and of using the screen for 10 hours. We can go back to the module 2 of the psychology behind it. We can try to understand what feeling he might be trying to avoid, or what, so we understand what is behind this. And yeah, try to ask him and understand why it is important to him, and try to open up the conversation. As Paula said, that's a great first step. hmm Yes. Yeah, these answers are pretty good. Yeah, it all has to, at the end of the day, it comes down to understanding and listening to what our young people have to say. Make, okay, making thin hour was so many hours, advising on having better habits. Yes. Those are really good. Um, yes, maybe we can move on to a few reflection questions that we left here, and we invite you to reflect rather whether on this specific situation or on a real situation that you have had to deal with in your work in the past, and reflect on whether on how you reacted or how you dealt with it, and maybe uh, even we invite you to write it down for yourself or in the chat, but that's up to you. Thinking of a specific thing that you would do differently with comparing a real situation that you had that you maybe feel that you didn't deal with it in the best way. And after this webinar and after all we've seen in this case, maybe something that you would do differently. How could you maybe try to reframe your reaction to be more understanding? How did I focus too much on limits and maybe not so much on the connections that he might be making in these online spaces and things like that we just yeah, as we said, um, with this situation, we invite you to reflect and to think of ideas and maybe possibly, hopefully, apply them to your real life work. And we hope that you can find them useful and interesting. And yes, so let us know. Yes, taking more time to build trust. Mhm. Yeah, smaller steps. We talked about that also with the boundaries and yeah, and the tools of breaking it down in small habits that you want to change and in small steps, so it doesn't feel too overwhelming. Because saying to them, "Oh no, you need to cut your use down from 10 hours to 5," it's too much. It's overwhelming, and they might put a wall up, like emotionally. So yeah, I think these two examples are great, building trust and breaking it down to smaller steps. Um, and yeah, and one of the first steps is, as Paulo said, and as many of you said, opening up a conversation, listening to them, and trying to understand them. And even if you don't fully understand, you listen to them, and and that's the first step, really. Yeah. So sorry, I'm rambling a bit here. I can I can maybe
Mm,
pass the ball to Paula and leave
no,
this reflection open.
yeah,
If yeah, if
I do,
afterwards you want to keep
I
thinking,
do
feel
think, well,
free.
for some that don't know, Carmen actually also have a background as a youth worker, so I'm
Mhm.
sure that she's now like reflecting from her own like things where she can do better, or experience, like recalling experience from her own background.
Mhm.
So you're doing just fine. Thank you so much again, Carmen, for this quick activity. I do think that illustrated a bit better what we meant on the model before, how we actually can put it into practice. And let me quickly move to the last module to leave some space also for your questions and a tiny break before the session with the youth workers. Sorry, with the psychologist. This final model, as I introduced before, is just to bring the idea that we don't work alone and we are not meant to do this alone. Technology doesn't exist in isolation. That is influenced by where young people live, who runs them, by what expectations is around them, what behaviors are modeled around them. So it is not only about technology and it's not only about what we can do. It is far beyond that. And if we want to create a sustainable change for them, then we need to start thinking beyond the individual, beyond the young person, and think who shaped the digital well-being. And that for that, let me introduce the idea of the digital village. Sorry, this is what I already said. So basically, can you move the next slide, please, Anna? Yeah. So this is the idea of the digital village. Thank you so much, Anna. The digital village is just only bringing the idea that every young person exists inside a system. What it means that their habits actually are their habits in general, but also the digital habits are set by families, schools, youth workers, of course, to peers and the system. When we're talking about families, we're talking about routines, communication, modeling, school expectations, the literacy, the boundaries that they are setting, the peers, the sense of belonging, the pressure, the validation. I'm sure this you already heard this because, as I said, this applies for all their habits, for all of our habits. But we tend to forget that digital habits are also shaped by the same structure and patterns that other habits are shaped. So, what is key of this idea and this idea of the digital violet is that no single actor creates a change alone, while this is a responsibility for all of us. And the we shouldn't be trying to compete or yeah to make a survival out of this, but to create a communication space between us where we coordinate, collaborate, and work together for and within the young people benefit. Um, we don't need, and I just know that as we have the feeling at the beginning, for all these parents, teachers, and all the key actors in in the life of young people, they feel the need that they need to monitor and control to be able to actually support young people. But I think that upon this moment, we already understand that it's more about creating a supporting space. And as we are doing with young people, maybe we can do that also with these different actors. I know this is a lot to ask for a youth worker. Like we already have a lot. We're trying to do our best, and we are always trying to improve how we work to make it better for young people. But it's already a lot what we are doing. So we can how it can change schools, how schools work, how their system works, how the family works. I know it's a lot to ask, and I'm not asking that to you, of course not. But what are those kind of things that we can do to support each other and to try to make greater the change that we're creating for with young people. Um, we can you start then saying the next slide, please? Yeah. So we can try to introduce to young people and to the parents these kind of ideas. On free meals, shared evening routines, family check-ins, co-create boundaries, and these are ideas that we can start introducing in our youth settings, and by that, hopefully, they can bring them to their homes. Um, it is just trying to help them young people understand, and then also their parents, the schools, and the teacher understand that the key here is not again to put the phone away, but trying to help them. What feels good about your digital life, what feels stressful, how we can support each other. And this is also a reflection that we can bring to that they ask themselves, what is this for them? Can you move to the next slide, please? Again, bringing back that idea that we are not meant to change the world right now. We are already doing our bit, and that's more than enough. But what are those small actions that we can already take that can create that difference? So, if we go to schools, and I know some of you go to schools, let's try to introduce digital well-being moments. So let's try to make the space for talking about this topic. And if we don't, if we cannot work directly with the teachers, at least they can only hear the topic and start reflecting about it. We can create reflection check-ins with the young people themselves, and by that, sometimes they already take that and into their own habits, and they take it back home. Um, we can offer offline meaningful alternatives that jump the parents and yeah, that parents rather to that where their young people chooses and they kind of support also young people like no, you do this activity, you go to YMCA and do this activity because it sounds fun, and by that we can also support that move away from the digital overuse. Um, you, there are multiple things that you can do. One that for me it is super fun. And I work. I don't know if it sounds like I work, but I work is a co-create digital agreement. So work with the people and work with the different settings. So if it's with the parents, like sat down the parents and the kids and be like, okay, no, like let's do the agreement together and sign it, and it's like fun, and also kind of create a great impact. Lots of ideas, different ways. Again, don't feel the pressure that you need to accomplish the work right now. It is about taking tiny steps and putting your tiny effort into it. But also don't forget that this is not about you, only about you, and there is a whole system around it that is influencing these habits. Um, I believe, yeah, I believe that this is the last slide. Carmen, I don't know if we have time for the quick ref activity, but let me, before that, kind of wrap up with a final reflection is that today we have explored many tools, many concepts, many ideas, but there is, if I can leave you with one message, it will be this, is that we young people doesn't need us adults to manage their life. What they need is adults, youth workers who listen, guide, collaborate, and create safe conversations. Because digital well-being becomes sustainable when people around young people work together. And that's what is the relevance of understanding digital village and understanding what role is playing each of us. Again, I'm not sure if we have time for the final activity. Let me know, Carmen. If not, you can start adding your comments or your questions on the chat, and we can give you 5 minutes to kind of like go to the bathroom if you need it. You grab a glass of water or a coffee or so, and then we can start with the second bit of this session, which will be that bit with the psychologist, where we will be more like sat down, peer to peer, ask questions, share our insights, share how we feel, our concerns, and he will be replying to those more like in an informal setting. So, Carmen, let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was really related to what you said. It's a take on the saying it takes a village to raise a child, which is yeah, if Anna, if you could just quickly pass the next slide. It's yeah, it's the stakeholders group, or as you said, all the pieces of a community or that surround young people, and how it is important, like the policy words like policy making, advocacy, community. We really hear them a lot, and we could not mention them. So we can just leave this open for reflection and for thinking. So everyone can have a bit of time to think of their questions and get some coffee or get some go to the bathroom and get some water. And we can leave this open since we are a bit tight on time. But just I just wanted to show it. So
No, and Carmen, and this is why
yeah.
relevant. Another thing that we can do as YMCA, it is you just
Mhm.
mentioned advocacy is a word that we are all hearing, and of course YMCA is like bringing that all the time. Such an important topic for us to advocate for our young people. And another thing that we can do for digital, increase the digital well-being, and is working to advocate and use our voice as YMCA's to make the key actors hear about this, hear that this is important. There should be policies and different actions taken by them to also protect and provide a safety for our young people around this topic. So really, really on theme too. Um, we will share the material so they can always later on reflect. For sure, take this, and if you want to take notes or so, feel free to do so. But let me move to the next slide because I would like to ask you, while you are taking that, no, the next one, please. Yeah, while you're on this tiny break, having that coffee or doing whatever you need, please scan the QR code and let us know your feedback so far. Do you think these matches are relevant? Have you enjoyed them? Have you learned something new? this is really helpful for us to understand how we can improve the materials, how we can make this more engaging and relevant for you. And yeah, it's quite important for us. It's not a lot of questions, so it won't take you much time. So while you are, as I said, while you're having this break, you can get it done. We will be back at 1, so you have 5 minutes. And as I said, we'll have the bits with our psychologist to answer your questions and your concerns. So thank you so much for this first bit, and looking forward to see you back in 5 minutes. Hello, and it's been brief, just 5 minutes. Maybe you will need a couple more minutes more, and it's fine. But it's always nice to have maybe some time to, yeah, water, bathroom, whatever it is. Um, yeah, if you have any question, you can drop it on the chat. I know some of you have questions around the materials. Are you going to share them afterwards? How are we going to send them? So just to clarify this, after the presentation, so after the webinar, the 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 video recording of this meeting will be uploaded into our YouTube and shared with you. So you can always come back to it if you would like to, or share it with other peers. But also we'll be sharing the materials so you can like check them out. And when I'm saying the materials, I'm saying the presentation, and then related to the actual materials, the training pack and the user-friendly kit. The training pack, you will find it at the end of the month, at the beginning of July, probably, the version digitalized. So it will be a MOOC course, like course online that you can go, log in, get it done, and then you can do it. It will be public free access. And and then the user-friendly kit will be also digitalized, so you will have there all the activities, and you can, just choose whatever you want and use them. So don't worry, I will be sharing also this information more in detail afterwards and making sure you have access to this um, when the time comes. But as I said, also I recommend you to, if you are not doing it just yet, to follow us in our social media, YMCA Europe, but Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, where we will keep certain updates of the project and any thing that is new, an event or updates, as I said, related to that. Um, so at this point, is there any other questions you would like to go through before we kind of like introduce the next session? Okay, and I'm seeing nothing. Lovely. Um, can you move to the next slide, please? So I'm seeing that Ruben is having a brief delay. So, well, we are help what I help him to join. Carmen, I do think it will be great to start, understanding where their settings, if they want to share anything or so. So, since you have something prepared for that, would you like to go to that bit and start, um, you know, living up the conversation and understanding their starting points?
Yes. Um, well, let's since we didn't have much time um, to talk about the policy making, we can maybe open up a bit of conversation on that, or you will write it. Okay.
So I do think at this point it's better to understand their question. So do you
Okay.
remember that we have some prepared for this, the peer?
Um, yes, yes, yes. Okay.
A lot of things we
The
need to prepare these,
yes.
so some details are
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Um,
okay. I can
mhm.
go if you need a minute, Carmen. I can also do
Yes.
it.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So sorry, I'm getting distracted with the presentation. Lovely. No, it's fine. So while we get ready for Ruben to join us, that he will be doing in a minute, we also wanted to use this space for you to kind of like share your insights from one another. do know that you have already experienced into this, and I'm sure most of you share the same experience, the same concerns, and the same situations. And maybe you can even solve each other questions with situations or practical scenarios where you have already kind of like came across this situation and find a solution or a reflection about that. So this is what I actually would like to focus on this stage, and it's like asking you a couple of questions around that. Um,
Yes, so I think maybe we can maybe share a bit of what our context, our professional context is, and how we can all maybe relate to what we are learning here, or how our works maybe overlap in some aspects. As Paula said, I have a background on youth work, and I study social education. And I've been a volunteer in a scout group, a youth group, for a few years now. So I see a lot of the more negative or unhealthy habits in young people, digital habits. And and yeah, it can really affect our work, and or really sometimes kind of block the activities we are trying to do. And it's difficult sometimes to deal with it. I don't know if someone else has seen this in their work or seen uh, all this. The questionnaire doesn't have the option. Okay. So if anyone wants to share, maybe in the chat, or however you prefer, some personal experiences, or how your work and the young people you work with relate to this digital well-being, or on the other hand, or the unhealthy digital habits.
Thank you, Carmen, and thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Paula, also for your input leadership, really learning session. And sometimes, my generation tends to think that we are aware of everything, but you have given me such great tools. And I would say that some of these tools and the working methods and solutions can also be applicable for senior leadership that's also working with teams with different ages. So I really take these on board as really relevant exercises and thinking. So you really made me think at this point. Just looking forward for the next few minutes with the challenges that Ruben is going to share with us. But thank you, really, really thank you.
Thank you.
Love. So sorry for this last minute inconvenience. You know, um,
Also, I'd like to
so
share, if possible, Carmen.
yes,
Sorry.
please.
Yeah. Um, my name is Flavio. I'm from an organization in Portugal, which is a Men Talks Association. We work with boys and men um, towards gender equality and bringing reflections about masculinities since 2019. And I was often we have been hearing about meet them where they are, but the approach you bring here was a little bit different, because when we talk and the other times that I've heard about it was about um, going online and find them there. When you say meet them where they are, but the approach here was like an insight for me, because the way you brought it was like meet them where they are in their feelings, in the way they are and what they were feeling at the moment. So for me, it was like a very good insight. I wanted to thank. thank you about from that. And I'm taking a lot of important notes about things to work with the youngsters. We are developing several projects in some schools in Portugal, so it will be very helpful. And hopefully, I didn't knew the work you are doing, and so I had the opportunity. I'm very pleased, and I hope that we can learn more. And like you said before, it will take all a village to change this. So thank you very much.
Lovely, Fabio.
Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much for saying that. And I'm glad that you think that, well, yes, sir, upon this one was interesting and relevant for you, because now actually I would think it's going to turn even more relevant and interesting, since it won't be me who will be explaining and answering your questions. I'm not an expert whatsoever, but it will be Rubén Somalo, who finally was able to join. He has a bit last minute difficulties, but he made it. Thank you so much for making the effort. I know it wasn't easy on your side, Rubén, but thank you so much for making that effort. Let me introduce him a bit before he say anything. But Ruben, it is a contextual psychotherapist who has experience working with adults, children, and adolescents in kind of all kind of settings, in the individually, in groups, in online, offline. And he is really great at helping people understand behavior, emotions, and patterns through evidence approaches with different kind of therapies. And you can see there the names, which for me sounds like science fixers, but definitely it is quite relevant. And it is just tied with what we have been mentioning throughout the whole webinar. It is how we can support understanding these behavior, emotions, and patterns. And as I said, Ruben will be more than helpful in complementing that knowledge that we just had gathered during this webinar. So please, Ruben, feel free to introduce yourself and say hi to all.
Oh, thank you so much, Paula, for your introduction. I feel very grateful about this webinar and all this attention. Thank you so much. I see there are a lot of people in this meeting, and I'm going to say sorry about my English because I do not use it every day or every month. So I will try my best to try to express everything that I can add to this meeting. I do not know what you were talking about. Maybe I will be repeating something. So, but I will need like your communication, and also Paula, that tell me what is like the objective that we are going to do. And I will try to give my experience about working with the digital problems that we are living right now every day, because it's a thing that yeah, I just talked with my patients, and I think it's one of the objectives in mental health problems that we have to approach and to understand and to be in touch with this thing, because I think it's transversal to all the patients and their difficulties with the rest of the things that they suffer.
Mhm. No, Ruben, don't worry about repeating yourself. As I said, I'm sure that you will be more better to explain the concepts and to complement what I
Okay.
already shared. So even better, we have worked a bit about what is digital well-being, what is that, what it means, what are the digital boundaries, and how we can set digital boundaries from a non-judgmental space. How mindfulness can be a key tool for us to that kind of pause and change how we work with technology. And also that for youth workers, who are all the people or mostly all the people in this meeting, that we shouldn't be controllers. We're here to guide, we're here to support, and there is no good or bad. It is more like, okay, let's support you while doing those changes and giving the young people the possibility to take ownership within these changes. We have done a brief activity, a Mentimeter that Lucia, I believe that she can share right now, where we lovely. Yeah. So they've we has asked our the people in this room, which, as I said, mostly are youth workers working with young people, what are 3 situations that they see young people struggle most to set healthy screen time boundaries. So those are the most response, and we can go through them, but perhaps before that, you can help us a bit complement what it is and how it should look a healthy screen or digital boundary, and what do you think in your opinion what is and who should like digital well-being?
Okay. For me, I have like some things that are very connected with the well-being that I try to improve in my patients and in my life, that are very related to the things that contextual psychotherapists, mindfulness, act, that they put like in the first side. That is mindfulness. It's connected to be able to be present in the moment, and that means to be able to feel the things you have to feel. Your mind, our minds, needs to process all the things that also are suffering, and that things are in the bedtime, in the evening, as you have write it. And I think that one of the problems that we do not have well-being is because of how the technology is designed. Because if the scrolling makes to our brain to grow the dopamine, when the scrolling appears and the things that entertain us that are very a ver en español, estimulantes, they are they're very tense. The things that are less stimulants, less tense, are boring. And that's the main thing that it happens when you try to get the abstinence and you stop the digital exposition, and you feel as if you are stop drinking, smoking, or stop doing any drug. So the thing with that is that the consequence and what is not well-being is that we are growing and our youth is growing without being able to see that we are losing our intimate world, our ability to make grow our curiosity about things. Because when you are in silence, you are able to think about what can be some curiosity about this. Can I discover this singer that my friend told me that he loves this singer? And maybe I can have a moment to listen very open to a song and to be able to feel the feelings that these lyrics are making me think about. And then you have that moment in your night when you are looking at the ceiling and thinking, what happens in my life? Those moments, I think, that are very needed to have like a conclusion. But the screens, the digital world, the scrolling, and all the things that make us addicted to them are the real problem. And today, tell me.
No, sorry, I interrupt you, Ruben. No, I was saying that definitely this is quite connected with like where youth worker has shared. Like definitely notice that they notice that there are some signs in young people that definitely are coming from. Well, now we know that are coming from that that they feel bored, or where they feel isolated and they'd rather to go to the phone because they don't know how to process that. Sometimes also because they feel frustration because there is an activity they're forced to do and they don't have an alternative. And because they don't know how to process those feelings, they just go to the phone. Or maybe it is because they don't know how, they are super addicted to social interaction, and that's the only way they have to interact is through phones. So they just know how to do that and they go there. Or in the bed, yes, maybe there's a more quiet time where you can lay down, reflect, and think. They don't want to do that. They don't feel comfortable with that, and then they go to the phone. So definitely, we've been, and I do think that our youth workers here have also spot those things. And maybe the question will be how we can, as youth workers, as facilitators, help on guiding young people to be able to cope with those emotions and reflect and take more silent moments and explore that curiosity.
I do think that as main workers with youth, I think I understand like the work with humans using our own experience about our difficulties. Like I had this problem, I recognize that I also feel addicted to digital problems and to avoiding patterns. This is my pattern, and the way I have stopped this avoiding pattern, it has been opening a book. It has been trying to put limits on myself, and I think that some insecurities or maybe sometimes ego makes us think about more difficult strategies or ideas that are inside us, in our story, in our yesterday. And functional and analytic psychotherapy puts the key in the main present, and with your difficulties you can make grow, say to someone, you can do this by do this. I also suffer, and I also try to avoid and convince myself, and nobody is doing. And I think with youth, it's very important to make community and to create a social norm that is like we have to make. I think the idea is to make attractive, to open a book and to prioritize, grow our intimate world, and to discover new abilities, musical, artistics, that are connected to those real coping abilities that make us better with our well-being, and also make us grow, and to make and to be able that every day with anything we can have a very bigger version of ourselves.
Mm. I have see that there's a question in the crowd, but just to see this is really interesting. So I'm gathering being empathic, being open, being realistic. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm facing. Here you have it, and they move away from that ego. And really interested in that idea of building a community and making attractive those activities that help us cope with our emotions, but for young people, might seem a bit boring or rejected. Please, Juan, see that you have your hand raised. Do you have
Thank
any
you.
questions or
Thank
comments?
you. Thank you so much, Paula, and thank you so much, Rubén. Muchas gracias. My question is the following. It's clear that a child, a young adult, a young person spends most of his time within the educational kind of traditional system, the formal educational system. How do you think we as organizations, civil society organizations, youth-focused organizations can complement better through non-formal education what the procedures are from the formal educational system? How can we be helpful in practical ways? Just in a couple of thoughts. Thank you. ¿Cómo desde la educación no formal podemos ser complementarios a lo que es?
The question is for everyone that is in the meeting.
No,
Yeah.
for you.
Or for me. Okay, I asked the first, and I think that is a very good idea to make activities that are non-digital, that you have to be in the present. And if you want to take some notes, we put as a present a book, a pencil, and we are going to write, we are going to draw, and we're going to be more creative to have something to bring us back when this activity is finished. And we dejar huella, we put like
We leave like an impact, yeah.
An impact, but in another format that is not digital.
Okay, really interesting.
That's my idea.
Related to this, and related maybe also with the connected with the question that Juan yes raised, which I think was really interesting question, and I'm sure most of us have the same question. But if in a setting where we're working with young people, sometimes they are unmotivated or unresponsive because yeah, they are like maybe wanted. I'm gonna put an example. We're maybe trying to do an activity with them, but they don't want to work with us. They just want to be on their phone. They're making excuses. They're like moaning. They don't want to do anything with us. How, from your perspective, we can what we can do to make what are techniques that we can use to work with these young people that are unmotivated or unresponsive?
That's for everyone or just for me?
For you again, Rubén.
For me, well, I think it would be depend on every human being that you're facing, because sometimes when someone is not wanting to recognize a problem, it would have a lot of different behaviors. And for me, I think that we have our truth, we have our perspective, we have our control, and I want you to help you by saying to you that you have a problem that is very addictive and you're losing a lot of abilities if you right now keep argumentating everything. So please, I want you with me in this moment to try and to give an opportunity to this thing that I propose to you. And
Like,
please, and then you can use also your humility, like I've been also you in other moments. And also please, let's go and to be confrontative with sympathy, with amability and equality. For me is the way that I try in my one-to-one and in groups, like, okay, I don't care about what you think, but please, let's do this.
So really interesting. So you're talking more like, okay, presenting what is the situation. You don't want to do this because you are feeling like this. This is what is happening. I understand you don't want to do this. However, I understand. So I understand this because I've been there too. However, let's try to make together the effort to focus for this amount of time. Let's do this together and see, go through it together. Really interesting. And I know we're a bit cut off on time, but also because you have a lot of experience, also mindfulness, I would like to ask you, Ruben, for one technique or one. So for most of us, mindfulness is still a bit abstract, unknown. So what will be one technique or a quick or easy way to get us introduced in mindfulness and how to apply these techniques in our work?
Okay. Thank you for that question. I feel so happy about talking about this and feel so important. Thank you so much. Well, I've been in my place where I do therapy, and for example, I have here like one job that I did in my adolescents group with trans adolescents, and it was one day that we were going to draw in a Pokemon what we feel like in a vulnerable moment that we lived.
Okay.
So it's very important, and this is last year I discovered these techniques that our focus is like, okay, maybe I don't know how many people knows the mindfulness. I'm going to start by the principle. I'm very short, but mindfulness is the key to be present, and that means that we have to make grow our ability to go slower. So that's like the main thing that it's going to make us to be able to be present, to go slower. When you go slower, you are able to feel more relaxed, and you are able to can sustain the rest of the things that are uncomfortable to feel. The pressure in my pecho, in my chest, the all the feelings that a human being can feel like uncomfortable, and to go slower is a key. So the mindfulness that I have learned from the contextual therapies master that I did are focused with closed eyes, where you as patient listen to the professional, and the professional explains you what you have to feel, like the corporal scanner, and then you have to experiment how does it feel, the mind going with your things, with your flashbacks, with your preoccupations and everything, and then you start to grow the moment that you are disconnected with another things that are not the main thing you have to attend. That's like a main thing that is very, there are a lot of techniques in YouTube that I suggest you to listen, to do it, and then to write it, and then to record yourselves, and then doing two therapies. So you have to do it first, and you have to feel it, and then you can write it down. When you are listening again, you can learn it, and then in some sessions you can do it with your script. But after a moment, you have to stop the do script, and you have to be in the moment, looking at the patient and saying the feet, the head, the tongue, the chest, everything. And then also you can ask the patient with your closed eyes, with the closed eyes, what do you feel? And then the person will say, I feel this, I feel that, and then you use it, and then you recognize it. And how does it feel? And where does it feel? Where it starts and where it ends? Do you think that it weighs a lot, or it's like ligero? It's like, what color does it look like if it has a color? And then you start there, staying in the uncomfortable feeling.
Really interesting.
And the final things that I think that are very, very useful are to write stories as tales. Maybe the patient or the person has any problem. Let's write down a moment that you felt vulnerable, or you had this difficult moment, and let's write it down. You can be yourself, or maybe we can do a fabula,
like a story,
of animals, where you are the animal that you look like in that moment. Because if you are having fear, you can be like a little rabbit that is running, and the rabbit has his family, and to be creative with those difficult feelings. That's also mindfulness, because it makes the person to be slower with the main thing.
Thank you so much, Ruben. This is really interesting. I'm taking notes of a couple of ideas. I'm sure that people in this room are also taking these ideas. For us, we are not working with patients, we're working with young people. We are not experts, we are not therapists.
For groups.
We're just trying to put our bit and help a bit our young people. But I really like this idea of, let us do first the activities. There are different mindfulness activities, but let's try ourselves first, so then later we can actually apply to young people and say like, well, I actually tried, I actually went through it, and that's why I can now do it with you. And really like this idea at another day, mindfulness trying to reflect and and about those things that we tend to don't want to reflect about, and more young people. And really interesting this technique that you shared about with us, that if we are not able to express our feelings and we cannot tell it, let's try to make it as a fun story and make it like something that is not us. We're just telling the story about this little rabbit or this fox or whatever animal I'm feeling like right now. Really, really, really interesting. These ideas. I know we are over time, and I'm sure there are much inputs and insight and knowledge that Rubén could share with us, although we don't have the time. Unless you have any other question right now, you can put it on the chat. But if not, I will say we should close the meeting. Uh, Thank you once again, Ruben. I know it was not easy for you to make time since you were like doing your own therapy sessions, and still you make some time to be with us here. We've just for context for you, we've already worked with Ruben while creating the materials that I already explained to you. So they are supported by different experts as Ruben. So you can already see that there's a lot of good insights on them because it was created with really with professionals that give us their input. So thank you again, Ruben, for what you just serve, for what you just bring us, the knowledge that you have bring to the table today. And thank you all for being with us today, for making the time to be with us and engaging through the whole session. It's been lovely to have you all here. It's been lovely to have you, Ruben, here, and looking forward to seeing you in future webinars. And then keep engaging with you. Don't worry. Again, I will share the materials. I know that is a concern for some of you, and you can always find Ruben on social media for sure if you have any more doubts or want to follow their job, which I'm sure it is quite cool to follow.
Thank you so much for everyone for listening, and thank you so much, Paula, for your moment and your words. Everyone, if you want to write me, if you write my name in Google, it would be get you to my email, and whatever idea, I feel super happy to express you or to give you the things that I would try to cope with the difficulties.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ruben. That's really kind from you. Much appreciated. I'm sure that for our youth workers, that having that extra hand is quite appreciated. Thank you again, all of you, and I hope to see you in the next one. Lovely. Have a lovely rest of the day, and good luck with the rest of the week.
Thank you so much. Bye.